And hello, everybody, and welcome to Sea Stories. I'm Duncan Hood, and on behalf of the American Schooner Association and the Great Chesapeake Bay Schooner Race, it is great to be here, see you all, be with you all, and have a chat with my pal, Paul Exner. Hey, Paul.
Hey, Duncan. Hey, everybody.
Dude, I'm so glad you could make it. This is great. Now, before we really get into the meat of things, we're going to do a few housekeeping things here online. Got both a Q&A and a chat window running. And just to make sure everything works, I would like it if you all out in audience land would just type into your comment box where you're from, and that'll give me a chance to see whether I've managed to do this okay. So go for it, and let's see where you're from. Okay, I'm going to type in here, and I'm from, oh, Cape May, Beloit, Solomons. My gosh, work in Baltimore, Chicago. Oh, London. Hello, John from London. Can you see that, Paul?
I can. Wow, amazing.
Hi, Priscilla. Yeah. Isn't this cool? Oh my God, it works despite our best efforts. It's all good. Anyway, I ran across Paul, believe it or not, on Facebook. And as I followed his exploits, I thought, what an interesting person to lock into and chat with. And Paul and I have been dancing around this appointment for a few months now, but I'm glad I could really lock you down, man. How are things out in Hawaii?
Pretty good. Yeah. It's amazing to be here doing this. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. It's all good. You were
It's
talking
awesome
now,
out here.
Paul, you're out. How did you end up in Hawaii of all places?
It's a good question. Okay, so I was living it's a story. I was living in the British Virgin Islands
Yeah.
with my wife and two kids that were both born on the island of Tortola in the British Virgin Islands. And we were living there I was there about 10 years or so in the BVI with my wife, and then we had kids there. Well, we got hit by Hurricane Irma in 2017, and it leveled everything.
I remember that. Yeah. Terrible stuff.
And it was like we were, we were under martial law. We lived without running water and electricity for about 6 months.
Wow.
And in that period, um, it didn't look like the country was going to come back really quick. So I kind of went to my wife one day and I'm like, hey, what about Hawaii? Because she was born and raised in Ireland, in Dublin. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
Hawaii's,
So they're right next to each other. Yeah.
yeah. Well, they're kind of like big islands. And
Awesome.
she's like, yeah, right on. So we decided to relocate after Irma and we moved here in 2018.
Very nice. I love that. I love that. Well, you feeling lucky tonight? Think the electrons are going to come all the way from Hawaii?
I, you know what? It's amazing that we have people all the way around the world on the
We live in a world of magic. Back in the early days, you and I both remember navigating with radio direction finders and with, the sextants and the sun, the whole deal. Anyway, we're going to have a short station identification, and then we're going to come back and find out how cool you really are. Hang on a second. This is a pitch to ask you to join us at the American Schooner Association. Founded in 1972, the American Schooner Association is dedicated to the history, preservation, and promotion of the schooner rig. You don't need to be a schooner owner to join the organization, just to be interested in these beautiful boats. As time marches forward, the role that schooners played in the history of our country is fading too. Your membership helps support educational programs and provides a base for preserving these vessels. So, join us. It's inexpensive, important, and we'd love to have you along. We'll see you at amschooner.net. And there you go. Ah, those days of acting, they come in handy once in a while. Now, what have you got for us tonight, Captain Exner?
Well, it's quite an honor to be asked here. So, um, I really feel like showing respect to being asked.
Well,
And,
get over that. It's going to be okay.
we talked about, I don't do very many of these. And I've been asked several times, and Duncan, I haven't done any in a few years, but I like what you guys are doing here. And,
Oh,
I thought this would be really fun. So thanks.
let's have some fun. It's going to be okay.
I kind of wanted to mention that, because I've been sailing 48 years, but instead of going through a blow by blow, let's go to the present. What's happening right now with a guy who's been sailing 48 years? What did I do today? What did I do this week? And what am I going to do this weekend? So I have a sail training live aboard expedition with some customers beginning Saturday. And I've been having this intermittent start problem with my engine. And it's like I have gone through multiple iterations to get it to work properly. And I'm getting tired of wondering if it's going to fire up every time I go to start the engine.
Yeah.
And out here in Hawaii, we don't really, it's maybe elsewhere too, but it's hard to find people to come out to your boat, and they're really expensive
Yeah.
and everything, right? So you got to do it. We got to do it ourselves.
Yeah.
So I've done a number of things, new batteries. I even bypassed the key tumbler. I hot wired the ignition. I bought a new relay. I cleaned the contacts.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I pulled the starter out, tested the starter. So now what I'm doing, and I'm researching all of the connections, electrical connections myself, but I'm basically putting in a momentary on-off switch directly at the solenoid and
Yeah.
splicing it into the existing ignition system, because the starter guy's like, that thing should just fire. So now I didn't want to blow it up. So
Oh, Gerardist says it's probably contacts in your solenoid.
yeah, I'm wondering, right? So we're gonna we're gonna try to bypass everything and put a mom right there.
Yeah, and that's a great idea. That's a great idea.
And then
Like once you get it going, then it's going. The beauty of a diesel.
it just keeps running.
Yeah, man.
So I've been working on that. And um, I sail about 150 days a year. But when I'm not sailing, keeping fit is really important, because if I go from sitting at the office desk to going sailing, I wind up like hurting myself before I go sailing again. So I'm working out every day. And my thing is,
Yeah.
I swim in the ocean about 5, 6 days a week. And what's really cool is that, so I have two kids aged 9 and 7, and I've gotten them, my wife and I got them into traditional Hawaiian canoe paddling, like ocean canoe paddling, where they got a paddle
They
with
can
a
come and
team.
get you.
What's that?
They can come and get you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they can come out and boy, I don't know, but
Yeah, yeah. That's cool. Yeah.
so they I've been taking them down to do that. That's what we did yesterday. And then I swam in the ocean literally yesterday.
Yeah.
And of course, tires going out on the car, have to get the car fixed. I did all that this morning. After this call, literally going back down to the boat to try to get this engine running. But I have this trip coming up, and I mean, we have sails, but it's nice to have an engine, because Hawaii sailing is pretty challenging.
Oh, yeah. It's
Once you take off here, it's a combination of offshore and coastal, deep waters, very few anchorages,
yeah.
variety of wind, including full-on gales as they wrap around the mountain winds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then I thought I'd mention, so after I finish this trip coming up, get the engine fixed, go out sailing with some people, I'm then flying down to Miami to run a sail training expedition on Cape George 36 with one of my clients on his boat. And
Nice.
what's interesting about this is that um, so how should I mention this here? Like the Cape George 36, as I'm sure most people know, this boat just won the the design.
Hmm.
Kirsten Newschafer won the round the world single-handed race. But maybe some folks don't know that I have a working relationship with Kirsten on that race.
Oh,
So
yeah.
she she had contacted me before she bought the Cape George 36 and asked what I thought of the boat. And this is kind of an interesting story. So she called Cape George, Todd Ecker, who's a friend of mine, because see, I have a Cape George 31. This is a relation.
Right, right, right.
She asked Todd some questions about the performance of the boat, and Todd said, "You got to call Paul. He knows how to sail these boats." So Kirsten called me and she said, "I'm thinking about doing the GGR and a Cape George 36. What do you think?"
Yeah, really.
And I said, "Well, okay, well, what are you doing the race for? Are you gonna you just want hope to finish? You doing it for adventure, or do you want to win?" And she said, "I want to win."
Damn right.
And I said, "You know what? You'll win in the Cape George 36." And she said, "You're the only one who's saying that." And I go, that's funny. And then I went into the reasons why I think the CG 36 could perform better. Say the Rustler 36, which is really a popular design that everyone wanted to race in that event. And basically what I told her, it has to do with the volume of the hull, much like the schooners, right? We
Yeah.
can drive these boats with a lot of sail power, and it's not just the waterline, but it has to do with, and I know I'm talking to the group of people who understand this really well, like we can provide a lot of sail power to drive our boats and overcome the wave resistance.
Yeah.
And having that volume in the hull really helps us to make the boats go.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Told Kirsten that, and she and I began like a 2 year relationship of communicating. And this was in the middle of COVID before the race. Everything from sail plan optimization, what she should have on there, to questions about some of her advisors said, "Hey, why don't you remove the bow pulpit, off the,
Really?
yeah, some folks are like, well, you could get the tack of the head sail a little bit lower and just remove the pulpit off the bowsprit." She said, "Paul, what do you think?" And I said, "You know what? I would not remove that bow pulpit." I go, "You're not going to win or lose the
Oh,
GGR because you've taken it off. But one thing's for certain, you're going to be a lot less safe."
yeah, that's right, because that's where your lifelines are heading. Yeah.
So, and what's amazing is she followed that advice I gave her, and of course she kept the pulpit off the bow platform, and everyone knows the story after that. She's wins the GGR. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Nothing wrong with that.
Um,
Very
so
good.
that's amazing. What she was able to accomplish there. Really good stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So
I
what's
should
coming up next in your life? You've got this big expedition coming up on this weekend.
this one, and then in Miami on a Cape George 36 out
Yeah.
for 9 days.
Oh,
And
that's nice.
that should be a good one. We're going to either push across the Gulf Stream or push down south, maybe dry Tortugas or something like that. But definitely some offshore training. Uh, Everybody likes to, they like to go sailing with me because we're, the destination is the sailing. It really kind of doesn't even matter like where we go
Yeah,
because
I hear
the
that loud
wind
and
is
clear.
there. And I
Yeah.
like that a lot. And
Yeah.
then something I wanted to mention, Duncan, is this focus on the see Hawaii. I wanted to talk about Hawaii for a second.
I like that very much. Yeah. What do you got?
Well, Hawaii is hard to sail.
Well,
Uh,
it's hard to get to.
it's hard to get out here. Yeah, I sit. So just for example, when I left the Caribbean after the hurricane to relocate to Hawaii, it was 2.5 month journey to leave the Caribbean, go through the Panama Canal, work up the Pacific coast of Central America to Cabo San Lucas, and then 18 days out to Big Island. And it's further from Cabo than it is from LA. So the Transpac, for example, is a shorter race course than it is leaving from Cabo because of Cabo tucks
Yeah.
well to the east. So it's longer.
Exactly.
I think we're like 2,700 miles or something like that.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, you're way out. So 18 days from Cabo to get out here, but
don't worry.
I'd been sailing over 40 years before I moved to Hawaii. And I figured it was actually going to be like, because it's in the tropics. When I
Mhm.
moved here from the Caribbean, I thought it'd be more like that.
I would too.
Well, it's nothing like that because of the high mountains generating these incredibly high wind speeds, very high, very few anchorages because of the deep water. There's a large environmental focus here in Hawaii where no one anchors on coral at all. And you can get huge fines if you do, like in the tens of thousands of dollar range. So the ocean is pretty well protected, but what that means is there's very few anchorages.
Yeah.
And as a result, um, it's folks want to come to Hawaii to check it out, but it's almost like the state here is discouraging people from visiting Hawaii because there's just not that much available resource.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it has to do with the complexity. I should add that we have zero bareboat charter companies in the state of Hawaii
I
because
was going to ask that. Yeah, right. Yeah.
it's just too dangerous, really. I think that with the high winds and the lack of anchorages, you need a boat that's turnkey offshore ready and proper skills to just run inter island because of the wind speeds.
Yeah, I can imagine the insurance must be impossible.
And they've I should add because it's kind of interesting, but we now have maybe the first state in the union to just as of April 1st launch a new piece of legislation on insurance requirements for boaters here. Every boat that operates in the state of Hawaii is required on the insurance policy to have coverage, $100,000 coverage on removal of sunken or grounded vessels.
Wow. You see, I come from the land of mud. When you run aground, yeah, who cares? It's all
Yeah.
good. All good.
So I've got that out to my insurance company right now, but
Wow. Yeah.
pretty sure that'll come through. But I wanted to talk for a minute about this thing that we deal with here about why the winds are so high. And and I wanted to also then just give a quick background of, who I am and why my words are even worthy of listening to in the first place.
That,
Like,
Paul. I love that.
because you could say, well, I sailed 48 years, but what does that mean? What did I do between day one and year 48?
Yeah.
And what I like to like I would say everybody on the call, we're practitioners of this great sport of sailing. And for me, it's I'm a sailor, not I'm a boat owner and a sailor. I'm not just a boat owner. And there is a difference.
Yeah, I agree.
And how I look at it is that, how can I sail better tomorrow? Really? Because even after all those years of experience, I can still get into trouble. I could have them pose a risk to rescuers should I get in trouble, even with all my years of experience. And so, I mentioned that there's a peril to sailing better. And
Well,
it,
I want to hear about that.
yeah, because it's like, there's a responsibility we all have the longer we sail. It's a sign of maturity to want to have some sort of legacy to who you are as a person and as a sailor.
Yeah.
I don't really want to go out shipwrecking a boat and creating environmental problems or put rescuers in jeopardy. So it be and now I know more what could go wrong to as you do a
Yeah,
massive scale what could go wrong out there.
absolutely.
What makes Hawaii so dangerous? Let me talk about that and then I'll mention a little bit more about my background.
Yeah.
See, we have these mountains here. Maybe I could share that really quick. Let me share one of these mountains for a second.
What do you
Really
got?
see what I'm looking at here. Here it is. Okay, I'm going to share this. Okay, you now are probably seeing a window here.
Yeah.
Okay, let me go play on this. You get full screen on that.
There you
Okay,
go. Perfect.
This is Hawaii Island and Maui, and this is a predict wind output. And you can see in this channel here between, I guess my mouse can't serve as a pointer for some reason, but
Uh, Could be able to.
yeah, for some reason I don't see my mouse.
Oh,
Oh,
come
well.
on.
Let me click. Whoops.
Whoa.
Whoa. Okay.
Hey there. Oh, we know your click works.
So the really large island, that's the island I live on, the southern island. It says labeled Hawaii. To the north is Maui. And in between us is the Alanui Haha Channel. The Hawaiian translation to English is Great Billows Smashing. You can
Wow.
see 35 knots of breeze there in that channel, and south of the island, 30 knots. Yet the trade wind influence is 15 knots of breeze to the east. What's happening in that channel there is something called orographic vorticity, which I've been studying,
Yeah.
both from an academic point of view. I'm poring over all the technical papers I can get my hands on, but the field study is almost the only way to go, because all the meteorological papers on the topic right now isolate single phenomena. Yet in the real world, we're doing with an interaction. And I'm going to add something here. On this day where it says it's blowing 35,
Yeah.
these numbers are underestimated. Out there where that green dot is,
Yeah.
it's 45 to 50,
Good God, man.
and it's consistent. And if you have a significant wave height in the 10 to 12 foot range, you're quite likely going to see sets at 20. I want to get into that, 20 footers that is, and I want to get into that in a minute. The distance between the channels not that great, but it's what occurs. It
Yeah.
takes about 18 hours to sail from Maui back to Big Island, and you're in the thick of that breeze for a good 15 hours. So that's 15 hours of extreme sailing. And look at the
What kind of
wind
distance are
angle.
you talking about, Paul? What kind of distance between them?
So from point to point, you're looking at about 30 miles from the tip of Big Island to the land of Maui. But bear in mind, there's absolutely nowhere to anchor on the entire southern coast of Maui. It's completely untenable.
Hmm.
Haleakala, let me go to the next slide. Okay, so this is kind of cool here. You can see a nice three-dimensional image of Hawaii Island and Maui. Look at okay, so what elevations are we talking about here? This is on Haleakala, which is the large island to the left. That's on Maui. That's 10,023 feet high. And
Good Lord.
look how far the summit is from the coast. So what you
Yeah.
wind up there is a steep slope. And I want to go into
So,
what
Paul,
that,
if you click on maybe your pen or something like that, instead of clicking to draw, maybe your pen could point for us.
okay, good question.
Try that. See if that.
Gosh, I don't see any mouse at all.
Oh my. Go to the left side of your screen. Does anything pop up?
I got the mouse back here. Is
Yeah.
that
Okay. Let's work here because you can point at things.
okay?
Yeah.
There we
That's
go.
yeah,
That help?
much better.
Okay, so this is Big Island and this is Maui. Look at the steepness of that. This is 10,023 feet. And over here, this is Mauna Loa. That's 13,500. And if you go from the summit here to the bottom of the bathymetry, this is the largest mountain on Earth at
What?
32,000 feet.
Wow.
If you go from seafloor to summit, and look at the steepness here. I mean, it's just an immense locale to sail in,
Yeah.
but there's nowhere to anchor here. And so to traverse this channel, it's wicked. It's just purely wicked. Here's another shot of it there. This is looking west. And you can see, I want to talk about how the wind rips off of here in a second. So what's fascinating is that you get an accelerated wind. Here, the forecast is 35, and these are numerical model outputs. I'm going to add something here regarding numerical modeling. at one point in my career, I worked as a professional numerical modeler. I worked on two-dimensional hydrodynamic flow models and civil engineering applications. And I also worked in three-dimensional groundwater flow modeling.
Right.
And this goes way back. So I understand modeling, and it's helped me in understanding the limitations of some of the wind models we look at, especially in this kind of environment. But what's fascinating here is that you got your trade winds clipping the edges of these mountains. You get a high pressure forming on the windward side and a low pressure forming on the leeward side. And you get accelerated breeze as it wraps from the high pressure side to the leeward side of the mountain. But see, the troposphere is almost interacts with like the tropopause, which is where there's a temperature inversion from sea level atmosphere to the atmosphere above it. It occurs about the same elevation as these mountains. And what's wild is at the summit of these mountains, the wind direction is from the west. And we're in the trades where you get east level surface flow. Now, this is really important because and these westerly winds that are coming back in this region here in Hawaii, they're outflow from the ITCZ, the convergence zone at the equator. The airs will rise and they'll start running back at higher elevation. They engage with these mountains here. Now, what we have, colder temperatures, we have a wide variety of consistency within the air parcels, both in humidity and temperature, within the air parcels themselves. And then we have a shearing, and we have an orographic blockage.
Oh my God.
And what winds up happening is that as they mix, vortices are created above sea level in a horizontal fashion, almost like a snake tube. And they wind up just like wingtip vortices off an airplane, just spinning off. And they will create this acceleration of breeze that will run. Look at the extent of this wind out here. This breeze is like more than 100 miles long of forecasted 30-knot breeze.
Yeah, it's like a Venturi tube, isn't it?
For those reasons we were talking about there.
Yeah.
Well, this is a shot of us in the Alanui Haha. And I run very specialized training to be able to traverse this channel. You can see here we're actually running a trysail. And it's not for the heck of it. Like we need it because a triple reef main is just too overpowered.
Yeah.
We're running trysail here, and this is a storm staysail we're running. About an hour after this photo was taken, we got a solid blast above 40, and the guys had to go forward and drop the storm staysail. Too much breeze.
Wow.
So I kind of wanted to, so this is kind of what I've been working on. And why am I working on this? That's a good question. I don't know why I'm working on this, because it's kind of intense, you know?
Yeah, it is intense.
But I feel it's there, and it's exciting me. And I feel like maybe I'm making some contributions to the field of sailing in the realm of sailing these kinds of wind conditions as contributions in addition to simply storm tactics. Because storm tactics, we know that there's 6 or 7 or 8, depending on how you slice it up.
Yeah.
But not much is in the realm of how do we actually catch these winds and perform in them, and what are the limitations. So where do I come from? Let me talk about this for a second. Okay, this is a shot of me. Here I am over here. And I think Julio is actually on this call. He's a friend of mine from Puerto Rico. This is 1980 in Puerto Rico, in Isla Verde. I grew up in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and this is really where I began my start as a sailor.
How cool.
So this is 1980. We sailed beach cats back in the day when you could launch the boats from the beach. We had a big fleet. Like we had over 50 boats and we could just launch, and we sail on the weekends and race every other weekend. It was a big scene. Well, these are the pre-world championships. I think I wound up fourth place in pre-worlds. And this is back in the day when smoking was part of sailing. It's pretty
Oh,
wild.
yeah, what does that mean?
I know, I don't know, but sailing is a big sponsor there.
Yeah,
I still have this plaque hanging in my parents' house.
it's hysterical.
Still
Yeah.
have that. But so I'm a first generation sailor. I started sailing in 1975 on the North Shore of Puerto Rico. And I want to add that
Yeah.
these are old days where on the weekends I'd wake up and I'd grab my sail and my rudders and I'd go down and launch my boat as the sun would rise, with no radio, no cell phone, no chase boats, just
Yeah.
me in the North Atlantic sailing the boat. And I didn't weigh enough to right a Hobie 14 should it capsize. You need 150 pounds to right the boat. I
No.
weighed 125. So I started experimenting by packing Clorox bottles full of lead and sand as dead weight. As a theory that maybe I could take this thing and somehow like
You're
get the
killing
mass just right and ooch it up, but I never actually had to test it. So that's where I got my start in sailing. And then
Yeah.
my father was transferred for work to Wisconsin, which is where I was born, actually. And there are a few sailors in Wisconsin, like Melgus Boat Works, Harkin.
You bet, man. That's a great spot.
This is at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. And this is me. We used to race these and sail these tech dinghies. I think they were designed at MIT, but back in the day, Harkin started building these. And we had a fleet of 50 of these things at the club. And I used to sail all the time. I would teach sailing. In the summer, I would live on a sailboat in the lake, shower in the basement of the union, the student union.
Nice. Right.
And
It looks
also,
to me like you're looking backwards on that one.
yeah, I guess it doesn't come up too well there, but maybe I'll make it a little bigger. Yeah, this is back in the day when we used to, the life jacket rode around in the bottom of the boat because it wasn't cool like wear the life jacket.
That's right. Yeah.
That's how we did it back in
Those
the
were the
day.
days, man.
Well, then what happened? So I sailed and okay. After I graduated college, I worked there for a long time and I started building a boat. Now,
God.
this this is the boat I built, but this is fast forward. This is me after Hurricane Irma
God.
in 2017. But I'm sitting on the boat that I built from a bare hull, a raw bare hull. And it's built from a Cape George Cutter 31 hull, and I built the deck and the cabin house myself.
Yeah. You showed me some pictures of that a while ago. Yeah.
So that's her, and that was 2017
God.
after Irma. That was, you see, my mast. This is an interesting data point for everybody to kind of think about here, is that, see, I was the only boat in the boatyard that had their mast off for that hurricane. And I didn't do it as forethought. I had it out of the boat because I was going to paint it that summer. And then Irma happened, and I was one of the only boats left standing. Now, this is the mast of a Sun Odyssey that fell across me, some 50-foot Sun Odyssey. And what saved the boat was it hit the lifelines, and the lifelines absorbed the blow. I had to replace the lifelines, but the rest of the boat was saved.
Wow.
I simply put the mast back on it and got out of there. But look at the carnage here.
It's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, it's boats to the horizon.
There's a GoPro video I shot. I think it's on my YouTube channel. I'm not a YouTuber, but I have a YouTube video, me walking through this footage with a GoPro for about 15 minutes, and it just wrecked boat after wrecked boat after wrecked boat.
So you left the islands pretty shortly after that, then, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we really did. It was, man, what a thing. We had to sell everything. Yeah, we completely sold everything. The only thing I really brought was things I wanted to restart my life with in Hawaii. And I brought the kids' wooden train set. Went in a little. I sailed with the kids' wooden train set right by the mast, and I sailed all the way through the Panama Canal and everything to BV or to Hawaii after this. But I had well, see, I only had a little bit of the money in the bank to
Yeah.
rebuild this boat, and of course I had insurance, but insurance wasn't really paying because look at all the damaged boats there were.
Yeah.
So here's kind of what happened. I left the BVI with just a few grand in my pocket and sailed the boat all the way through the Panama Canal and got to Hawaii, waiting for my insurance payout. And I was in Acapulco, basically broke until I remember I was on the phone with the insurance company and I broke down crying because I was just almost done.
Oh,
And
Paul.
I
Oh,
got I got paid the next day, which was
well, sometimes crying works.
sometimes crying works. Uh, so I was able to continue on with because I had completely funded the rebuild of my boat.
Yeah.
And the reason, Duncan, I had to do that was because, see, the logistics between the date this photo was taken and getting to Hawaii to avoid hurricane season in the Pacific required a rewind of the schedule. So I just did a big route plan and said, well, if I go backwards from arriving in Hawaii in mid-May, what does my departure look like?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
BVI? And I had 2.5 month journey with almost no room for contingencies, including getting through the Panama Canal, which was like, please get me through the Panama Canal. I paid an agent and
Please, God, don't crush me.
don't crush me. And somehow, I don't know, I got shuffled to the front and I got through the canal. And then
A great
I
story.
wound up here in Hawaii.
Yeah, that's a great story.
That was an interesting thing. So this slide is interesting because it tells two stories at one. It talks about me building the boat, and it talks about me recovering from the hurricane.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And this boat is my livelihood. My 100% of my on the water income comes from this boat. And the only other way I earn income is I do some some coaching with clients, helping them solve their own problems, where either I'm sailing with them on their boats or we're discussing project management and route planning and things virtually. And so I'm basically 100%.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, it says a lot that you're able to have a company like this, especially in this day and age when an awful lot of people are heading towards powerboats, working out of Hawaii. My goodness. So would you consider yourself sort of like a high adventure um, voyager, or is that sort of a secondary ancillary thing?
it's a good question. You know, the way I feel about it is that the I have more respect for the ocean than ever before,
Yeah,
and
you bet.
it's to the point where I wouldn't want to recklessly. I'm using the word wrong here. I wouldn't want to seek adventure if it was reckless.
Okay, I get
And
that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so I like adventure, but what I've tried to do on that, and thinking this way with the 48 years of experience, is how can I create an approach that is more than a checklist? Because a checklist is really quite flat and static.
Yeah,
But how can I create an approach? And this is how I sail and how I help people sail.
yeah. And
Is
I want to get into that a little bit, so I'm glad you're coming around to that.
oh, good. Yeah, it's this approach in the way we look at the preparations and the departure that I think is really what I say, making waves to wisdom. It's really the essence. And I have to say, 15 years ago, this approach to sailing really didn't even occur to me. It's crazy. And I had been sailing 30 years at that point. This sport is so amazing because um, it can be highly intellectual, which as you can probably tell from my tone of my voice, I'm really passionate about this thing that we
That's
call
awesome. I love that. Yeah.
yeah. It
Totally good.
it's like it's a mind and body sport, and the mind, as we get older, as I age, it far exceeds what my body is able to keep up with. So the intellectualized side
Right.
of sailing is becoming almost like I just don't want the day to end, if you know what I mean. And in that sense, the adventure is there, but there's a high degree of caution at the same time. Like crossing the Alanui in 40 to 45 knots of breeze is adventure, but I would never do it if all the homework I put into it didn't create the proper go, no go decision. And that's really become the the thing that I'm jazzed about, or the thing that I
Yeah.
think I'm making some contributions in the field of sailing on.
Talk a little bit about that go no go decision because that's what all of us really face.
It's, gosh, I tell you, it's very easy to say, don't go. Very easy, because you can just stay in the marina and wait for the perfect day. Well, I want to think about that for a second. And I'm not trying to create a revolution in thinking in the sport of sailing. That's not what I'm trying to do. But I want to draw a historical comparison. And I think the schooner group can really understand this, because we used these types of vessels. We used vessels for sail, not really as yachts originally. We used them for commerce, and
Absolutely. You bet.
the sailors that did that work, they didn't have any of the tools we have now,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
their intuition, understanding of barometric pressure and relationships with clouds and stuff like that, they got that. But see, they used to sail and handle all kinds of things, and because they had to, it was commerce.
Right. Right. Exactly. Absolutely.
So today I could sit in the dock and say, well, it's not commerce that's going to make me leave the dock, and that's fine. But and I'm not asking for a pat on the back or a feather in my cap for going out when it's extreme. I'm not asking for that. In fact, I question whether I should go sometimes. But what I'm seeing is that, and this is the thing I've been exploring lately about go, no go decisions, is the idea of the edge. Like that edge is different for every person, and it should be.
You
And
bet. Yeah.
and really, there's no comparison between this guy's edge is more intense than that guy's edge. That's just pointless. It really comes down to, are you satisfied with the edge you're at right now? And if the answer is yeah, I am satisfied, well, great, because you wouldn't want to get hurt. We want you to be happy. But see, I've been facing eh, further edges, and I saw one in December. I saw the most extreme conditions I'd ever sailed in my life after 45 years of sailing, just in
I
December.
remember reading about that from your posts. Yeah.
And I made so what I'm doing in that channel is I'm working on a very sophisticated route planning method that is more of a management system, which allows us to look at routing in a very sophisticated way. Now, do I use the routing suggestions from Predict Wind? And the answer is no, I don't. I don't. Now, do I think that product is good? I do. I think it's an incredible product. It is, and I use it, and they actually help me out. The guys, I've
Oh, very
shared some
cool.
things that I'm doing with them. They give me a copy. It's great. It's an awesome product. But when I do my routing, I'm looking at something really far more in depth that the computer tools can't do right now. And it's a balance of contingencies and a balance of success rates that are both intuitive and analytic that I've been able to put together. And this is what we work on when I'm sailing with people. And so it's more of an analytic approach, but how can I make this tangible? Because I can't share the whole thing on this.
No, completely. Yeah. Yeah.
So let's talk about catching wind in extreme conditions, because that is where the edge falls in operation of a boat, right? And here's the interesting thing. When anyone breaks down the various tactics that we have for heavy weather, let's just call it there. If you subdivide them all, the only ones that allow us to sail are the reef and the trysail.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, we employ running off as the solution. But see, running off is almost, once you adopt running off as a tactic, you've already succumbed to the fact that your trysail and reef sails are already doing that. So what that means is, as a quiver of opportunity, if we can't sail high winds, it's no longer a tactical option. And that's quite revealing.
Yeah.
And so what I've been trying to do is explore, to what edge can I make a boat perform? And what I mean is reaching. How high can you reach with a trysail? And I hit that edge in December. I'll share that for a minute. And I'm working on something right now that makes the words in this discussion concrete. I'm not ready to share that yet.
Yeah.
So, and I'm going to preface it, is that, okay, what does 40 knots mean? What does 45 knots mean? And I'm going to begin here for a minute. And I think it's really important to recognize that some of the wind values we're seeing today in the field of sailing are exaggerations. And it's important to point that out with responsibility, because someone's going to kill themselves going out in these conditions, because you see an influencer. I saw a kiteboarder saying they were sailing at 50 knots with their hairs hanging straight down with a kite. I'm like, you know what? You're not doing anyone any favors, because they're going to go out with a kite in 50 knots and they're going to get blown out to sea.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
So we need to be real. And in December, I sailed in 40 to 45 knots actual wind under trysail alone, except for a furled Yankee.
Yep.
Yankee, and we were okay. I was sailing a 70-degree true wind angle, so I was a little above a beam reach.
Yeah.
For 18 hours.
Ooh.
So as a data point, and this is not an exaggerated data point, I sailed 40 to 45 knots of wind on a 70-degree true wind angle for 18 hours is part of this method I use to create sophisticated routes.
Yeah.
In the Alanui Channel. And it was, it's a miracle. Well, not a miracle. It's, let me describe that for a moment, what it was like in there.
Sure.
So we had a trysail, and I tried trysail alone, but we couldn't sail above a beam reach with just trysail. And the wave resistance slowed us down. But check this out, Duncan. The wave height was so big that the boat started to climb uphill, and gravity itself pulling the boat from getting up the wave.
Yeah. It's three-dimensional sailing.
It's and I'd never experienced that before. Usually I'm experienced, pitching waves, but here I am like gravity. And we needed a high degree of power. Here's what happened. I had my clients helming the boat, and they did that for a couple hours, and I checked our progress, and we weren't making it. We were missing the island by like 25 to 30 miles to leeward.
Yeah.
So I said, guys, I normally don't take the helm, but I need to see if this is even possible. Can we even do this? So I grabbed the helm. I started steering the boat, and I realized I got the boat in the groove in terms of what she would do. And then I had someone check the COG value against our waypoint.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was like, not making it. We're still off by like 15, 20 degrees.
Yeah.
So I started calling for more power out in the head sail. Now, I trained my guys. There's a lot of training before they even come to Hawaii to do this trip. And Grant, who was a young fellow on the boat, he's in college, finished up his senior year in college, said, Grant, because we have to talk over the breeze, you need to ease that furler inches at a time. And now we're going to work together. And you cannot let that slip, because if you let it slip, we fully expose the head sail.
Bam, just like that.
Lose the rig.
Just like that. Yeah.
And I'll add, I was running trysail at that point with both running backstays engaged, just to provide extra support to the
Wow.
rig.
Yeah, you bet.
So I'm like, he's like, all right. And this is where trust comes in, right? And okay, give it an ease. And we pulled out inch by inch. I'm like, more power, give me a couple inches. And then boom, boom, the boat starts going. We had to overpower the boat where she became a semi-submersible in some manner
Oh God, Paul.
to be able, and it's the boat we're looking at in this photo,
Yeah,
to be able to drive. But that was the edge. So that was 40 to 45 knots of breeze with 3 feet of exposed clew on a furled head sail. I think it was probably about 15 square feet of head sail.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I forget what the sail area is, the trysail is, but we started eking it out. And then there was a helming technique that had to occur.
Hmm.
I did the helming technique. I had the next client next to me. I said, just put your palm on the tiller extension and put pressure there. And I want you to feel that motion that I'm running through. And I talked him through that motion as we powered the boat for the next couple minutes. And then I let it go. I'm like, you got the boat. And then he started to replicate that helming style to be able to, and then the team sailed the rest of the boat there.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what allowed you to make that 70-degree angle.
That was the sail configuration that allowed us to do that.
You know, I bet a huge percentage of us have never even sailed a storm trysail.
I got a photo right here. Let me share that.
Yeah,
Here's
yeah. Oh, that's a great photo. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
let me do a play so it's big here.
Yeah, nice.
And I've done an external track on that. In fact, that trysail, I think everyone can appreciate this. That trysail rode around in my boat for many years until I got to Hawaii. I never had to actually use it until I got here.
Isn't that something? Yeah, 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 yeah. You know, the interesting thing about a storm trysail, of course, is that it has two uh, sheets and they don't go to the boom. They straddle the boom and allows you to work it.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's really a pretty interesting sail
Yeah.
to use.
So right now it looks like you're sailing three sails. You've got an inner foresail and your jib, which is what a little Yankee it looks like maybe.
Yeah. So here I'm running the trysail.
Yep.
And my my friend Pat Considine designed these sails for me. Uh,
Hmm.
Chuck and I didn't work on these, but Pat and I did.
Yeah,
And that trysail there. So then it's a storm stay sail, and then there's the working Yankee in front. And if you look at the top, you can see it's partially furled.
I can. Yes, yes, yes.
And so I've been micro adjusting the sail area to get to properly balance the boat in offshore conditions just to improve the performance. And
Mm, you bet.
it
You bet.
really works. The furler I'm using here in this photo, this is a pro furl furler,
Yeah,
which I do put on a winch and I can micro adjust it.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
their products work pretty good for me, but
Yeah, very nice. Yeah.
yeah, let's see.
All right, click us along a little bit. Oh my goodness gracious.
There's another shot. There we're going full working Yankee there.
Hmm.
There she is again.
Yeah, yeah.
Look at that tortured water there.
Uh,
Look at the bend in the bend in the headstay on the working
yep,
Yankee.
yep. Mm.
It's railed
Okay,
down there.
we are.
Is-
And that's the stance you got to use. Look at that go. Woohoo!
Oh, this is Johnny Kenyon, and Johnny is Johnny had only been coiling lines for about 6 months in this video. I'm going to play that again for 1 second. Think about that. So we really focused on, you know, good old fashioned seamanship.
Yeah, you bet.
Always brings you home. And here's Johnny coiling, and
I mean, it's going, man.
there he is.
Yeah, that's a great shot. Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, this is great. Look at you go, huh? Now we are beginning to run to the end of our time. How are you doing on your photos?
Doing pretty good. I've there was so much more I could have shared. So this really is about what I was planning to share in terms of photos, and it's good because I didn't go over our time.
Well, luckily in my world, the time is kind of loose. It's going to be okay. Oh my goodness. Well, I'll tell you what, let's take a moment for a quick station identification, and then we're going to come back and we are going to have some chats running through here. So for those of you who are watching right now, think about some questions to ask Paul. We're going to take about 4 minutes, and then we will be right back.
It's a 127-mile overnight race from Annapolis, Maryland to Norfolk, Virginia. It's a celebration of a race to market from an age that has passed into history, a time when the Chesapeake Bay hosted passenger steamers and was peppered with working boats and pleasure craft, all under sail. This is an invitation to take part in a celebration, an invitation to get out on the bay, strut your stuff, spend time with friends, and put some wind in the sails of your beautiful boat. This is an invitation to join the Great Chesapeake Bay Schooner Race. After more than 35 years, the Schooner Race has decided to add an invitational class for non-schooner boats that would like to join us in the fun. Now, whether you have a schooner or classic vessel that harkens back to that age of sail, we're inviting you to join us. This race runs the length of the bay, and participants encounter all sorts of different conditions. It's challenging, and it's a great deal of fun. From the parade of sail in Baltimore's Inner Harbor, to the crack of the starting cannon off Annapolis, to the early morning finish at Thimble Shoal Light at the mouth of Hampton Roads, this is a race designed to celebrate your rig, whether classic yawl, ketch, sloop, workboat, or schooner. It's a chance to test your skills and enjoy the camaraderie of new friends and old. It's a chance to be part of something big and something meaningful. As an invitational class, the criteria are simple. If you have a vessel, modern or not, which is reminiscent of the age of schooners, you are welcome to join us. In addition, if you or your organization have a mission compatible with ours, promoting awareness of the Chesapeake Bay's heritage and ecology, and or preserving these historic vessels, you'd be welcome to join us too. Applications will be considered by our race committee, and if they feel that your boat or organization would fit our parameters, you're in for a wonderful experience. Join us. Let's get your boat on the line. Or if you know of anyone else who might fit our criteria, send this over to them. Let's keep this great event alive, and let's give back to those who live along our shores. Join us for the Great Chesapeake Bay Schooner Race. It's a ride to remember. To find out more about the race and our mission of supporting not-for-profit organizations on and around the Bay, please visit us at gcbsr.org.
Life is good, yeah. Life is good, yeah. Yeah, in my darkest times, you got me feeling like I've been walking on air. Left all my worries and cares.
And there you go. Oh, we're gonna have trouble coming from the Chesapeake back to Hawaii. Hey, young man. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with Paul Exner. Thank goodness. What a thrilling description you had of Hawaii sailing. Whew, sometimes it makes me want to stay home.
Me too.
Oh, we've got a great question and answer. Paul, you've got a button at the bottom says Q&A, and then I'll help you take a look. Folks, if you'd like to put in a question for Paul, we have a Q&A, and I'll also be monitoring the chat as well. So just type in any questions you have. And here's one, your first one, of course. It says, looks like you all are in full foul weather gear in Hawaii. Why?
That's a good question.
Hell.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Hawaii Island, in terms of latitude, is we're at the very northern end of 18 degrees. So we're really at between 19 and 20 degrees north latitude at Hawaii Island.
Mm-hmm.
But we're tropical. But a couple things. The Pacific Ocean is generally a little bit colder than the Atlantic. So the water itself is a little chillier. We also have high mountains, and we get snow on top of these mountains. And sometimes the cold air from the summits will grab a hold of the land and race down the mountainside. And so we'll get pretty chilly temperatures out there. And definitely it can get cold. So, and then what happens is we're also wearing the foul weather gear, because when you're soaked for that long, the skin starts to prune up. So, and then you just get tired being soaking wet with a shirt on. So a good foul weather gear to keep you somewhat dry and a little warmer. A lot of times I'll wear just a cotton shirt or some kind of high-tech shirt under a lightweight foul weather gear. I don't wear heavy foul weather gear, but like a lightweight.
Very good.
Yeah.
Hey, Eric Key writes, thanks for the presentation. As a project manager and change practitioner, I always use go, no-go call to ensure that we completed all our activities and go over the risks and decisions log I keep. My question is, what do you call your technique? I've heard of forereaching. Would you please contrast that with your technique?
Okay. Thanks for that question, Eric. And John, thanks for your foul weather gear question too. So the method I'm using is essentially it is a project management method, just like any other project management method. And what I pay attention to within it is really the important part. So Eric does bring up forereaching as an approach, and that's one of the heavy weather tactics. And forereaching is a good tactic, but it's part of the solution it's part of one way I could sail a boat within the project management solution overall. So how would I contrast my technique, irrespective of just forereaching?
Sure.
My technique takes into account an interpretation of the weather and implying the weather on what we're trying to do in our route. But then it takes into account the crew's skill level, the readiness of the running rigging systems, including how well the crew can manipulate the running rigging.
That's a good point. You bet.
It takes into just the psyche. Do we feel like we can do it? Health.
Yep. Absolutely.
Those types of things. Duration. And then how quickly would the weather improve if you waited a little bit? So it really is a standard project management approach that I use. It's just what I pay attention to within it. And then regarding forereaching is just one of the tactics I could employ.
Yeah, that's a nice one. Here's a technical question from David Hibbard. Has to do with what's the criteria for the age of the rig, standing rigging for an extreme passage?
Good question. I just replaced all of my standing rigging last year.
And how
And
old was it when you did that?
The standard 10 years.
Mhm.
It's the kind of thing where, I inspect that rigging all the time and it looks great, actually. I always buy the best stuff I can get.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Oh,
I don't want to be that one guy who loses the rig because I won a day over 10 years. So
That's probably a good criteria. Here's an interesting one from Richard Anderson. Why are your clients inquiring to learn to safely sail in such conditions? Most of us will hopefully never experience these conditions.
that's a really cool
That's one of the
question.
attractions of what you do, isn't it?
Yeah, thanks, Richard, for that. The quick answer is, well, maybe one day we'd find ourselves in there.
Yeah.
And that certainly is the quick answer. But
Yeah.
what I'm finding that is unique about doing it like this is because we get to live and breathe making the go, no go decision and a highly detailed process of making the boat ready to just do that. So we've practiced, we've engaged in a project to the extreme level. So we're literally standing at the door front and we can say go, no go, but we've gone through it. And what I'm finding is it's that gut feeling that you have, the evaluation of everything you've done that gives you the confidence. And like I said at the beginning, we're not looking for feathers in a cap or pats on the back.
Sure, you bet.
It's standing there as an exercise to see, could we do it? We could still say no, but could we do it? And from that, I've been learning more and more and more and more about myself, what I'm capable of, and what I can do with a sailboat.
Yeah, that's a really good sort of button to put on it. Paul, it's just been great. Why don't you give us a little button for the end of your presentation? Tell us what Paul Exner would say about this. Put a button on it.
Put a button on it. Well, thank you guys for coming and listening to me. Means a lot. Wish I could see you all. So thanks to you for making the time. I would like, we're just getting a chance to know one another a little bit on this call.
Yeah.
I try to contribute in the field of sailing, and I continue to do so. I'm trying to not just practice the standard approaches that I've
Yeah.
grown up with, but trying to find the boundaries of those approaches so that maybe we can learn a little bit more and improve safety through our abilities to handle the extreme. If when you're a sailing coach, I'm a full-time sailing coach. You certainly don't earn much money. I mean, it's incredible.
You're not in it for the money?
No. Yeah.
That's why I do it. Well, I tell you, I will tell everybody following Paul on Facebook or however you can, and his podcast is always a very interesting thing to do. And I really want to thank you so much, Paul. It's been a pleasure. And before we hang up, I do want to remind those of you who are watching, if you know anyone who might want to participate in the Great Chesapeake Bay Schooner Race, please send them my way. John Moss says it was an enthralling presentation. I could listen to you for hours. And my experience is, yes, you could. Thanks a million, my friends. Paul, I'm going to call you after this. Just chat, so keep your cell phone ready. And I really do want to thank all of you so very much for joining us tonight. And having said that, Paul, let's drop your share for a moment. You've already done that. And here we go, and away we go with that.